We are connected in this moment and interconnected to people who are celebrating around this country and all around this world. The hope is deep, and it's wide, and it's fierce, and it's urgent with the desire for change, justice and peace for all people. The change we need, some tell us, is too huge. Already we are being cautioned, or perhaps even cautioning one another, not to hope too big, not to believe in the impossible. But wait a minute. Didn't the impossible just happen? People said a black man cannot be elected president of the United States, much less a black man who opposed the war on Iraq from long ago, who says government must address human needs, and who supports equality for all people. For some, that feeling of impossible comes from the hard, cruel knowing that ours is a nation scarred by slavery, toxic with the racism that continues to dominate every single institution, and deeply impacts our relationships with self and one another. For others, doubts were nurtured with appeals to racism, used covertly and overtly to undermine as unelectable a candidacy that had not been nominated by the power elite. But then what happened? Hope built and built and built, and black and brown and Asian and Latin people, Native people, and enough white people who supported peace and justice. We, the people, elected this president, a man whose father, the president said today, would not have been served 60 years ago in a local restaurant in DC. And then the mainstream spin becomes, well, racism is just not much of a problem anymore. In fact, a leading senator pronounced today that in one fell swoop, we have erased most of racism. I do not need to convince you that America's struggle with the legacy of racism is not over with the election of Barack Obama. However, there are those who will seize on this election as grounds to put aside the struggle for racial justice. But racism is more than attitudes. Racism is institutionalized in life's realities. For far too many people of color, higher rates of foreclosure, unemployment, higher rates of cancer and infant mortality, less chance to a fair trial, to fair sentencing, disproportionate imprisonment rates, more likelihood of living near a hazardous waste dump, or of having a son or daughter die in war. On New Year's Eve, Oscar Grant, a black man, was shot dead by a Bay Area police officer, point blank, in the back, while lying on the ground. Ann Braden called racism a prison that we, who are white, never fully escape. She said she discovered that her own liberation was totally entwined with understanding what racism had done to her personally and to her society. Anne found her own freedom in actively working against racism on a personal level, but also in the manifestations of it in each and every institution that frames our lives. The election of Barack Obama is arguably the most democratic election this country has ever had. Unprecedented grassroots engagement. A movement-building effort that pulled together the people of this nation with the most to gain from deep and transformational change. Enough people joined together across lines of difference, refusing to allow racism to divide. The impossible became possible. In this coming period, we will have moments of hesitation, of doubt, of forgetting our part as co-creators of a more just nation. There will be times of struggle, the need for protest, the responsibility to provide counterbalance to the entrenched defenders of wealth and of war. We will wonder again, is change really possible? Then let us find one another, re-inspire one another, lift each other up. Let us remember that we can never allow any one of us or any group of people to be treated as expendable. We move forward only when we do it together. For universal health care, to healing our environment, from affordable housing to just immigration reform, from equality for all to an end to war on Iraq, Gaza, Afghanistan. Our feet must keep marching, our wheelchairs must keep rolling. We must break each and every silence of complicity, speak even when we are tired, unsteady, and afraid. Black lesbian activist and writer Audre Lorde said, "Do not be led into passivity, either by false security, they don't mean me, or by despair, there's nothing we can do. Each of us must find our work and do it, actively working for change, sometimes in the absence of any surety change is coming. Together, we have so much to do, but together, there are so many of us to do it. Together, let us co-create the impossible."